So short of looking around for that, we're going to practice this call and response chanting. And this invocation we've covered on the YouTube channel. So that's one place where you can certainly find this invocation. I'm looking at the school YouTube channel. And Linda had a question about where to find the various meetings. And this is our public YouTube channel. So here you'll see things that are listed for the public. And when I look at the school channel, I can also see what is sort of unlisted material. But here we have the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and here we have chanting. And in your chants, you have your Patanjali invocation for Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. And so you can go through this chant and learn it by working with the YouTube channel. So that's just how to use the materials you already have introduction. For today, though the screen's not perhaps super big, you can follow along as best you can by looking if you're visually inclined. Otherwise, just repeat after me the sounds that you hear. Vande Gurunam Charanaravinda Sandarshita Swatma Sukha Bivode Nishreyase Jangali Kayamane Sansara Hala Hala Moha Shantyai Abahu Purushakaram Shankha Chakrasi Dharinam Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Namami Patanjalim Om. So this invocation is done regularly to start Ashtanga Vinyasa classes. So you'll hear it frequently in that setting should you attend these classes. We're now going to look at the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And how did I pull those up somewhere? This must be them. Here we go. Macy, I see you there. Can you nod your head if you can see the screen? Okay. So we're reviewing the Yoga Sutras, and we left off with this Yoga Sutra number 41 and the first chapter. And how we got here was through the rest of the first chapter as we've gone through the weeks. And we progressed through yoga being union with the totality, union with God, with the all that is. And that union or yoga being defined as a process of stopping back the previous existences or the spinnings from the past. So union with God or union, yoga is implying a process. And then we had our first definition, which is that yoga has this two-winged bird of a practice in the state of non-attachment, abhyasa and vairagya. And that's the 12th Yoga Sutra. When you all are learning to teach the Yoga Sutras, the RYT 200-hour program that we have at Santosha, we really just focus on 18 or so from the first chapter. And the most important ones I really consider to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 12. So if you can be really well versed in teaching the first 4 Yoga Sutras and the 12th Yoga Sutra of the first chapter, that is a great introduction. The other part that we really emphasize are the 8 limbs or the 8 layers or 8 rungs, Ashtanga Yoga, which happen in the second chapter. Today, having established that yoga is union and that it comes from a practice in non-attachment, and that it has nirodha, this stopping back internally, we've been given in the last many sutras various practices that can be done. The first of which spoke about relationship life. So back here in the 30s of the Yoga Sutras, we had this definition that the practice of any single truth, tat pratishedharatam ekatatvabhyasaha, which means the prevention of the blocks, that's what tat refers to, those blocks, which were referred to in the previous sutras. The prevention of those can be accomplished by the practice of a single truth. And this speaks to how we will find really clarity and spiritual attainment in people of many different walks of life. Not just meditators, not just yogis, but really people in all walks of life. The first yogi from India to come to the United States, Vivekananda, came here in the 1890s for the Chicago World Fair. And he came here penniless, much like my own guru, Yogananda, did. And his life story is quite remarkable. He was born in a family that was a Brahmin family and practiced with many who had been inclined toward this spiritual life, as the Brahmin class is. And at some point, he noticed the extreme poverty around him and chose to walk the entire circumference of India, which is a gigantic country. And he documented his travels. And what he wrote back, and as he wrote to not only his followers, but also his brothers, his priest brothers, he wrote about how he encountered people of such incredible spiritual attainment from all walks of life. And who were they, these Brahmins, the priestly class, to really think that they were the only ones that had this level of attainment? So I'm reminded of that, of him and of this, as this sutra is given. Vivekananda was a great yogi and the first to come to the United States and teach. The next sutra that we covered gave a practice which had to do with relationship life. You can respond to me. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam, Sukha, Duhaka, Punya, Apunya, Vishayanam, Bhavanata, Chitta, Prasadanam. And the sutra talks about what to do in relationship life. When you encounter someone who's in sukha, a good space, cultivate maitri, happiness. Go be friends with them. Pick up on it. You encounter someone who is dukkha, in a bad space, have karuna, compassion. Someone who's doing meritorious action, punya, then have elation, mudita. Someone who's apunya, dismeritorious action, upeksha. Upeksha means witness. You see it, but you don't judge the person as only that. So hopefully this is reminding you of that sutra. We then went forward to several more sutras covering ways to clarify your field of awareness And we came to the 41st Sutra, which then describes really our first experience of saturation, where I'm doing something and I, the doer, doing it, and what is done all blend together, or all become saturated. And I love this sutra. We'll chant it again so you can respond to me. And by the way, here in the black and orange is where the individual words are. And so I'll be chanting word by word here. Kshina vritte abhijatasya eva mane grahitra grahana grahyeshu tadstatad anjanata samapattihi. And what this beautiful sutra says is that in one whose vrittis are diminished, and vrittis are those spinnings, they are my past, it's the soap opera of the past. In one whose spinnings are diminished, there is a saturation, or simultaneous occurrence, samapattihi, where like a gemstone, and this is the beautiful reference that I love, like a gemstone, the grasper, what is grasped in the act of grasping, grahitra grahana grahyeshu, it becomes saturated, like the light in a gemstone. Everything shines forth at once. And this is a beautiful metaphor because each of us is like a gemstone. We came from something rough, like coal, and through the gradual processes of life itself, of learning through life's lessons, through any various means of technology for aiming for the light of oneness, I become polished, much like a gemstone becomes polished from the rough material. I see that we have another person, I'm not sure who it is, so who is it that's 5088852, the 317 number? Your phone will be on mute, you'll have to unmute it. I unmuted you. Who is it?
Sheila.
Who is it? Say it again.
Sheila?
Oh, Sheila. Oh, nice
Hi.
to hear you, dear. I'll put you back on mute.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're listening about the Yoga Sutras, and we're moving forward to the 42nd Sutra. You can respond to me or follow along visually if you'd like. Tatra Shabda Artha Jnana Vikalpai Sankirna Savitarka Samapattihi. And Melissa, I'll have you respond to me so that you can practice learning it, okay? I've unmuted you. You can just respond to me. Everyone else can as well, but you won't be heard on the recording. So give it a try here, Melissa, responding. You can follow along here. Tatra Shabda Artha Jnana Vikalpai Sankirna Savitarka Samapattihi. Then try closing your eyes, Melissa. Just feel the sounds as I make them. Then do the best you can to make them. Tatra Shabda Artha Jnana Vikalpai Sankirna Savitarka Samapattihi. Beautiful, Melissa. Really good. So we'll look at this sutra and look at the words. Shabda means words. Artha means meaning, or it can mean purpose. Jnana means knowledge. And vikalpa means a particular creation, or in this case, a conceptualization or imagination. Vikalpa was actually listed much earlier in the Yoga Sutras. Sankirna means fully mixed. You may recognize that prefix sam, the same one in Sanskrita. Sankirna, fully mixed. Savitarka means with a particular thought. And samapattihi has that same prefix sam, which means perfectly or totally. From all directions, and pat, which is a meaning to fall or to descend, like in the name Patanjali. So all things totally falling together means cognitive blending. And this is where English is very limited in trying to define these concepts, and why learning root sounds brings a richer meaning to understanding. So as you learn simple prefixes, you'll be able to recognize really a deeper sense of the meaning of these sutras. And it's a lifetime learning. So what's being said here is that there, tatra means there, tatra means here, sarvatra means everywhere. So tra is a suffix, meaning location, and tatra means that place, there, in such a case. And what is that case? It's the previous sutra. A person whose vrittis have been diminished. So when the vrittis have been diminished, in this case, where this person is experiencing the mind like a gemstone, the words, their meaning, knowledge, with conceptualizations of them are all mixed together. So there's this experience happening where a person is in the zone or in the flow, in a process, and everything is starting to merge. The breakdown between object and experiencer is that distance has grown closer, so that things are being experienced all together. But there's still this sense of words, meaning, knowledge, and thought all being fully mixed together like in a soup or a stew. And this is an internal thing that's happening. The next sutra, which I will have Linda, you practice chanting with me, but first we'll all chant together so you can respond to me. Smriti Parishuddhau Svarupa Shunya Eva Artha Matra Nirbhasa Nirvitarka. Okay, Linda, do the best you can, dear. Just respond to me. The rest of you can also respond. Smriti
Smriti
Parishuddhau
Parishuddhau
Svarupa
Sarupa
Shunya
Shrunya
Eva
Eva
Artha
Parita
Matra
Matra
Nirbhasa
Nirbhasa
Nirvitarka.
Nirvitarka.
Good job, Linda. Very nice. We're all exploring this technology, learning through great distance. And this sutra has some words that you might have heard before. Shunya. Many of you will have heard that before. It means zero or empty. There are kinds of meditation called shunya. Svarupa, we've had before, it means true form or own form. Rupa means form and sva means self. Shuddhi, which becomes shuddhau, shuddhi means purification or purity. Shuddhi. And pari is like a prefix meaning like perimeter, so from all around. And smriti means memory. Artha means the object or purpose, same as in the previous sutra. Matra means measure. And then we have a word nirbhasa, shining forth. So bha means to shine. And then nirvitarka means beyond thought. So before, in the previous sutra, we had savitarka, with thought. So it was something that was, things were blending together, but I still had a thought process involved. So this is happening during meditation experience, or even just during an experience in life, where I, the doer, what I'm doing and what's being done, there's still some thought process. But upon the purification of memory, and this is an interesting phrase, that samapattihi, this cognitive blending, becomes beyond thought when it becomes as if empty of its own form. It shines forth as the object alone. And so there, upon the purification of memory, the samapattihi, this cognitive blending, becomes beyond thought. When chitta itself becomes empty of its own form and shines forth as the object alone. At this point, I am fully in the flow or fully in the zone. I have no sense of separation from that process of life that I'm a part of, whether it's meditation or something else. This is some subtle things to be describing. So, and it's dense. So don't be upset if you're not able to fully digest it all in one sitting here. The Yoga Sutras are to be studied throughout the life and reflected upon. My job is to introduce the material to you and to give you some practical guidance. As we go forward, the next two sutras talk about a different, more subtle investigative process that's happening. You can respond to me. Etaya eva savichara nirvichara cha sukshma vishaya vyakyata. Then we'll have Macy practice her chanting. You can all also join in. So Macy, just respond to me. You can follow along in the black and orange here, where each word is broken down.
Okay.
Etaya
Etaya
eva
eva
savichara
savichara
nirvichara
nirvichara
cha
cha
sukshma
sukshma
vishaya
vishaya
vyakyata.
vyakaita.
So listen to my sounds and then say them. Close your eyes, Macy. Vyakyata.
Vyakaita.
Vyakyata.
Kyata.
Vyakyata.
Vyakyata.
Very nice. You can open your eyes. And this is how to work with your students as you are teaching them anything. Listen for clarity and then just keep repeating until they get there. We're not used to this sound k, and we would never put it before ya. Kya. You can all try it. Kya. And that is the root sound around identification. So kya ta means identification, and it's explanation. So it's an important sound, and it's an important process in yoga, which is a process of selective identification of what is real and eternal and what is temporary or impermanent. And here, this sutra is building upon the last two, where we had savitarka, with thought, and nirvitarka, beyond thought. Now we have savichara, a subtle movement or a subtle investigation I'm doing internally, and nirvichara, beyond even that subtle movement. And what is said in the sutra is that specifically by this, meaning in reference to the previous two sutras, with reflection or subtle movement and beyond subtle movement, types of cognitive blending are explained with regard to subtle objects. So early on in the blending process, where I start to find myself in the flow or absorbed or in the zone, and I'm using words that musicians and artists and athletes use. Earlier on, there's this part where I'm like, let's say I'm a musician, and I'm starting off by playing, I'm playing whatever it is, the song that I've been working on, or I'm playing scales. And so there's this beginning with a practice, right? Abhyasa is a practice, and then non-attachment is the other part of it. So I'm starting with something, and that's the beauty of a practice that's truth-bearing. I have something that I know I can start with. And then at some point during that practice, where I still have sort of words and meaning and knowledge and conceptualization, at some point all of that stuff starts to mix together. All of it starts to merge, and I'm no longer like in my head thinking about playing the guitar and singing anymore. I'm no longer conceptualizing the crowd around me or the people that are responding to me. I'm no longer teaching this class with Melissa and Linda and Macy and Sheila, all of you that are out there someday listening to it. May there be many. Instead, I start to fall all together into the moment. And yet at that point, there's still this sense of a mixture of it all. Upon the purification, or as I myself become clear of my own past, I fully merge into this process with you all. Or the musician fully merges into the playing of the song. At that point, there's still this sort of structure to it. And then a more subtle investigation happens. The musician might start to freeform or just sort of feel this energetic connection and back and forth with the audience or with the other performers or other people that she or he's playing with. And that process is a more subtle investigation or a more subtle movement, and has more subtle forms that are being focused on. And the same two steps will happen, where first there will be this sort of cognitive blending where everything starts to zoom, come together like a gemstone, reflecting light. And then this oneness where there's no longer, where it's just the gemstone alone, or just the light alone. So we're going to move on to the next sutra here. And Sheila, I'll have you respond to me, but first we'll all respond. We're finishing the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras, and it's some really beautiful but very heady and subtle stuff. Sukshma Vishayatvam Cha Alinga Paryavasanam. So Sheila, you can respond to
passenger, 80.
Sheila's in an airport, so we'll also listen to the person talking over the loudspeaker.
Sorry.
That's okay. It lends some beautiful worldliness to it all as we talk about the super subtle stuff, which is the first word. So just respond to me, Sheila. Sukshma
Sukshma
Vishayatvam
Vishayatvam
Cha
Tat
Alinga
Alinga
Paryavasanam.
Paryavastanam.
This is particularly beautiful because Sheila actually cannot look at the words right now. She's only on the phone. So really good focusing, Sheila, while you're doing that. And then that one-pointed focus is called ekagraha. You can all try that. Ekagraha. Graha means to grab, and eka means one. So you're only grabbing one thing at a time. And so here we're looking at the subtle objectness. Vishaya means object, and tva is a suffix meaning possessing. So vishayatva means possessing an object. So subtle objectness extends all the way to the not signed. So linga, you will have heard maybe perhaps the Shiva lingam. Linga is a name for a particular sign. It's also the name for either genital. It's a sign or a mark. Linga means not signed, and it's a reference here to something that's like a primary state of matter. So the subtleness of objects can extend all the way down to an unmanifest state of primary matter. And it's interesting because in Sanskrit literature, there are so many references to atomic and subatomic type of material. And this is thousands of years ago stuff that we're reading, at least. Of course, it could be an oral tradition that's much longer than that. So the subtlety of objects extends down to the atomic or unsigned or unmanifest state of primary matter. This is how subtle the savichara and nirvichara, the subtle or explorations can be. Our next sutra is an important one to learn in the process of what we're doing. And so often when I teach you all or when we're hanging together, I talk about how this is gardening. We're gardening. I'm born and I die. And in between I'm gardening. This beautiful Chinese aphorism I first saw from one of my acupressure teachers. And it really touched me. I remember back then, his name was Joseph Carter. He's still teaching, I think, in the Bay Area. I'm born, I die, and in between I garden. So I'm gardening here. And this is a reference to these inner processes or anything that I'm doing, actually. So you can respond to me. Ta eva sabijaha samadhihi. Ta eva sabijaha samadhihi. And Melissa, I'll have you respond to me just to practice chanting. You can respond here in the black and orange. Ta eva
Eva
sabijaha
Sabijaha
samadhihi.
Samadhihi.
Then close your eyes, Melissa. Ta eva
Ta eva
sabijaha
sabijaha
samadhihi.
samadhihi.
Ta eva
Ta eva
sabijaha
sabijaha
samadhihi.
samadhihi.
Beautiful chanting, Melissa. So this sutra, and the reason I say it's reference to gardening is because we have the word bija, which means seed. And this is our first description of samadhi. Samadhi, the eighth rung or the eighth layer of Ashtanga Yoga, meaning cognitive absorption. This one is sabijaha, with seed. So the previous four kinds of processes that are happening internally are described as kinds of samadhi. And these particular four are with seed. So what happens in a plant that has seed? It's laying seed for its other generations to come, right? So it's creating a karma, it's creating a process where it can be repeated. And so at this point in the investigation process or the subtle processes of yoga, which could be something else. You know, it could be a person that's just found another truth-bearing practice. But at this point, where a person is starting to have this observer, observing, and observed all blend together, when they're getting into the zone or getting into the flow, this is leaving seed behind that they can get there again. So what a beautiful sutra it is. Later on, you'll learn about Sanskrit grammar and how taha becomes ta. This was a question that Melissa had that I'll cover later on in this class today, which is about how to progress your Sanskrit learning. We're going to cover one more sutra today before we end for the day with Yoga Sutras. And you can respond to me. Nirvichara Vaisharadye Adhyatma Prasadaha. Okay, Linda, do the best you can, dear. Respond to me here. Nirvichara
Nirvichara
Vaisharadye
Vaisharade
Vaisharadye
Vaishardadye
Sharada Sharada
Sharada
Sharadye.
Shardade
Stay with it, you're doing well. Sharada
Sharada
Sharadye
Sharadade
Vaisharadye.
Vaishardade
So very good. Adhyatma
Adhyapna
Prasadaha.
Can you say that one again?
Pra
Ka
Pra
Pra
Sadaha
Sadaha
Prasadaha.
Vasadaha.
Good job, Linda. So Linda also can't look at the screen right now, so she's really having to focus one-pointed. And you heard me break down this word. Vaisharadye has the word Sharada in it. We actually sell Ayurveda oils from a company named Sharada Ayurveda. So Sharada means particularly clear or lucid. And we have some other words here that you might recognize, like Atma from Atman, which means the self or the soul. And Adhyatma means the higher self, or the higher soul, that overwatcher. So there are so many phrases and terms used to describe the soul or the eternal aspect in the language of Sanskrit. And learning these simple prefixes and roots helps to deepen the flavor of understanding. So Adi means over or above. And Atma means the self or the soul. Prasadaha, any of you who do ritual in an Indian setting will have heard of prasada. It's that clarity or blessing that's received at the end of a ritual. But here, this whole sutra is saying that the clarity of the higher self occurs and the lucidity of that beyond subtle experience form of samadhi or samapatti. So where is it that we actually meet the higher self or in the soul, that higher soul? It's in that part that is even beyond subtle investigation. So this really subtle and heady stuff, which is the end of the first chapter. Hopefully those of you listening along, this wasn't your first Yoga Sutra seminar that you attended, because it's really quite subtle material. But just to try to make it really, I think, tangible as possible, is that eventually in life, I recognize that I can't do a whole lot about what's outside of me. And so I start focusing on myself and what I can do. What practices can I have? They certainly don't have to be meditation, but there needs to be something where I, the observer or the grasper or experiencer, that which I'm experiencing or grasping, and that which is experienced or grasped all start to blend together. So athletes call this being in the zone. Artists call it being in the flow. Musicians might call it being in the groove. Or dancers might call it being in the groove. Basically, where there's no longer any part of me like overlooking what I'm doing and editing it. I've just become in the moment. And so often when we encounter athletes or artists, when they're not able to do that thing that brings them this experience, they suffer incredible depression. And the reason is because we each crave being in the moment. And that's why the technology of yoga is so useful, because as long as I can still breathe, meaning that I'm alive, I can do my inner practices of yoga. So there are then forms that are described, which when I practice them, leave seed, meaning that I'm planting something. I'm planting something by doing it, and it's going to leave seed, which means I'll be able to come back again. I'll be able to access that again. Now, in the yogic description in the Vedic culture, we believe in reincarnation, so we believe even if it's not in this lifetime. But if that's not in your belief structure, then at least, in this lifetime, those good deeds that you've done will be rewarded. That's the idea for those that have this single lifetime heaven and hell concept. So There are things that have a thought process. There are things that become beyond a thought process, where we have nirvitaraka. The 44th Sutra describes the same process applies to with subtle investigation and beyond subtle investigation. And then we learn that the levels of subtlety of investigation can extend even down to the unsigned, or the sort of subatomic, we might consider it. These processes do leave seed, and they are cognitive absorption, where I become one with what I'm doing. The clarity of the soul actually shines forth when I get to that place that is even beyond the subtle exploration. And that's where we'll leave off, which is a nice cliffhanger for next week. Well, what happens after that? So thanks for coming along on this journey through the Yoga Sutras. I encourage you to refresh yourself with regular practice of the previous incarnations, or the previous versions of this, which are also up on the YouTube. And while we're here, just as a reminder for those of you that are currently on the call, that there are access points for you for how to chant these Yoga Sutras. And so if you're following along on my screen share here, hopefully the internet will allow me to show you where they are. You have access to this 200-hour teacher training folder, even if you're in the 500-hour program. And the Sanskrit portion of that 200-hour teacher training has the Yoga Sutra ch.1 and the audio tracks. And not only does it have me chanting each of these sutras that you could respond to, but it also has the word-by-word breakdown, where you can go word by word with me. So there's a lot of information, so much information for you to dive into here as you're like at the airport, like Sheila is. There should never be another dull moment in your life. So much time for you to study. And there's something incredibly clarifying by chanting in Sanskrit. And this is where we'll end our Yoga Sutra study, and we'll move on to the next topic.